of UnVeil. On this platform, I interview women of color on discovering the beauty that lives and lies within them. We also take a closer look through their eyes on their interpretation of what they define as beautiful. My guest today is Mrs. CA.McGrath. She is a woman who, when having a conversation with her, I am reminded that my purpose here on earth is just beginning. She is a coalition member for the Coalition for Anti-Racist located in Glendale, California. Her voice is what we need in all the world's noise. And her voice will always remind us as Black men and women, we are noble, we are blessed, and highly favored. So without further ado, my guest, CA.McGrath. Yay!
Hello, how are you?
I am quite well. How are you?
I'm fine.
She just recently celebrated her birthday on May 28th.
Which was the 80th birthday.
80th birthday!
What a shocker, huh?
It's so good. I mean, just like 80 years around the sun. Like, wow. How do you feel?
Well, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I have a memory back to 5 months old.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was in a pink blanket. My mother had to go somewhere, and they left me with my uncle, who was only 19 at the time. But to me, he was my uncle. I knew he was my uncle. I knew what they were saying, but there's no way I could interpret it.
Okay.
Because at 5 months, you can't speak.
Mm-hmm.
At least I couldn't.
Wow.
And he had on a gray suit jacket, no tie. He was only 19, and the suit jacket was really rough. And I remember being very uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
And he was kind of joshing me around. And I wasn't crying, but I was squirming.
Mm-hmm.
My 8-year-old cousin, Joni was a child of mixed race. She had bright reddish blonde hair, thick, kinky braids.
Mm-hmm.
She had on her Catholic school uniform, and she talked like this. She said, "Let me hold the baby." And as soon as I was in her arms, I fell asleep.
Wow.
Because she was calm.
Yes.
And her clothing didn't bother me.
Mm.
I remember that very well. I remember how the house looked from what I could see of it.
Yes.
Remember the hardwood floors?
Wow.
I don't mean that I remember every day when I
Yes.
was 5 months, but that was just one incident.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I reflected, you're having your reflection of, you can date back to being 5 months old, remembering just certain situations in life. And I remember when we talked, that you had expressed to me that you lived in Glendale for over 18 years, right?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. And when you first came here from Toronto, which is where Ms. McGrath is originally from, you had to look in the mirror to see another Black person.
In Glendale, yeah.
In Glendale. Yeah. So, I reflected on that because I was just like, wow, because you know how different eras and how, I grew up in the 90s. So growing up in the 90s, I'd never experienced or had that experience of saying I couldn't seek and see other women and men, right? But it was always around me, even in television. Like there were just all of these Black sitcoms that reminded you of like, families and like who you are and just all these things. And so it inspired me to having this kind of inspiration of like my own kind of beauty and like what I see within myself. So, my question to you is, what did you can you give us insight as to who and what were your beauty inspirations for, the comment that you made about only seeing yourself in Glendale, but just outside?
Well, don't forget, I never saw any Black people in Toronto either. I didn't start seeing Black people till I went to New York City.
Oh, wow.
And that was wonderful.
Oh.
And I saw that's when I was 15. My father took us on a trip to New York City. And that was like a big deal in those days for Black people to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And I decided then and there, when I could, I would move to New York City. Because I never had a date until I was 20 years old. There was no one to date me. So anyway, Yeah, so I moved to New York City. I don't know what I just always wanted to look as good as I could.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up trying to copy anybody because I wasn't like anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I realized by high school, okay, you're on your own. You can't fit in, so don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been very independent emotionally, beauty-wise, intellectually,
Wow.
spiritually. I became a Baha'i, which
Mm-hmm.
was my own investigation. See? So it's different when you're the only one.
Mm.
It is. You could go a lot of ways with that, but that's the way I went.
But so you said that I didn't know that. So that you had gone to New York. When did you? And I guess going back to Toronto, when did you make the decision about moving to California, Los Angeles?
Oh, that wasn't until I was 32.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That was after I had garnered some acting experience.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to get a small part in an American film they were shooting in Toronto. And in my naive attitude, I said, "Okay, now I'm ready. I've got American experience. Just go to California."
Yeah.
And I was very lucky because I didn't know the rules is why I got work. I mean, you're not supposed to hitchhike to 20th Century Fox because you hear of a part that's being cast,
Right.
sneak past the gateman, find out where the casting lady is and say, "Look, I read your script. I know I can do this." And she said, "Who's your agent?" So I made up, I knew of an agent. I didn't have one.
Wow.
So I told her, "Who's on agency?" Which I wasn't with them. So I ran back, I hitchhiked back to Husan, and I said, "Look, I've just given your name. You're going to get a call." And I did. And they were so excited because I got my own work to get an agent. It was hard work. I used to bang on doors a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I admire all actors and entertainers. I really do.
Right.
Because it's the hardest work in the whole wide world. People think, "Oh, it's so glamorous." They don't know what these people go through.
I mean, yeah.
And those auditions.
I know. I had taken like an acting class, and to really like one of the methods of the training was like reflecting on a situation that happened that was similar that you can pull the emotions from to creating this in like
That's
energy.
it.
And it was like it was so like it wasn't draining, but it felt like I really could connect to it immediately, which is so crazy with like our thoughts. Like we think that we storage things in our thoughts thinking that, oh, okay, we just kind of leave them there and they're not there anymore, but then let it have a moment and it can just flare back up, you know, with all of this energy and all these feelings and everything.
That's if you have the talent for it. Yeah, some people are very blocked off. But you see, actors are seekers of truth. Truth within you.
Yeah.
You know, people who have no idea say, "Oh, actors are just a bunch of liars. They're just making..." No.
No, they're referencing.
Actors are the most good actors that act from their heart, from their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They are seekers of truth. It's a hard, but that's just one part of the difficulty. There's so many mechanical things you have to do and get through. I mean, when you're doing it, you're doing it. Yeah. And you're obsessed with doing it. When I think about if I want to go back to that again, oh God, no.
Yeah. But I'm gonna make you go back to that point though in the 70s when, you know, you're an actress. And when you are within that moment, how does it feel being a woman in this room with other actors?
Oh God. Well, there you go. That's the horrible.
Yeah, and then
no, wait a minute. I got to tell you about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, the presence that your presence being in there, what was their feeling, you know?
Okay. Here you go. In Canada, I always got the part. There weren't that many parts, but I was one of the very few Black actresses. Mm-hmm. Okay. I come here. There's a room of 16 me's. 16 gorgeous Black women. And the only way I could survive it was to love myself. At first, it was very hard.
Hard on
It was
what?
like a shock. So you have to be better than all of them. You have to be just right. So the only way is I had to work on myself. I had to work on my self-esteem.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are
And
you saying,
sometimes, huh?
I'm sorry. Are you saying that there's 16 other Black women in this room, then you guys are fighting for one role? Is that what
Yep.
you're?
Yep. Hello.
Okay.
Well, we're not fighting for it, but we're up
Not
for it.
physically, but it's like you're competing with each other to at least, get this.
Yeah, I had to like let the competition go. Sometimes I'd get the part, sometimes I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. It's just if you happen to be the right type, height, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just your turn. And it's different with us because at that time they were using Black people as content. They had to use us. They had to use us because we had fought so hard to have some kind of equity in every business. And we didn't really have equity.
Yeah.
But they needed the content. So it wasn't that flattering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People don't know that. It's different now. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot different now.
I mean, it is, but I think that also when we get into the award shows, it's always the first, and still trying to fight for space in those.
Well, it's really hard.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so proud of some people like Regina King.
Yes.
Tyler Perry. Because
Oh,
they're getting to the place that we're getting strong enough to do their own thing.
Yeah.
To produce their own project.
I love her.
It was a lot different when I was coming up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you got the roles and the parts here, mm-hmm. And you're saying that it's just, for content, how was it being behind the scenes and for like hair and makeup for?
Oh, well, some of the people, the hair and makeup people were okay, but some of them refused to touch me.
Wow.
They were very rude. So when one of them would do that, another one would step in and say, don't pay any attention. Oh. But it didn't feel good. Looking back on it, I see how demented, veiled, mm-hmm. and unfortunate those people were. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But these are people they're in the white supremacist state of mind. Mm-hmm. They didn't like the fact that Black people were now getting a chance. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of shows, it might be a lot of Black people. There might be a lot of Black people for a week in a scene. I'd always be the one that came in as the only one Black person. So depending on how things went with all those other Black people, how I would be treated as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I had a few nice experiences. Yeah. I'll tell you, the best experiences I had is when I was the star of a commercial. Then they treated me really nice.
Oh, wow. Do you remember what the commercial was?
One was McDonald's. Oh, cool. And they had requested me because I'd done another one for them. And one was, I can see the director. I can see the sun. Oh. I can't tell you. I kind of let all that go, when I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore, I called my agent because I just had a baby and I was 42 when I had him. And I thought, I got to put everything into this. God has been good to me. Yeah. I prayed in Israel on Mount Carmel, the highest point, to the greatest holy leave, because I was told I'd never have a baby. And now I have one beautiful son and two grandchildren, two grandboys. Yes.
Speaking of beautiful, how do you keep yourself up on a day-to-day basis? How do you keep your beauty going?
Well, you first start with the inside. Yes. And when you're ready to leave the house, You know, we all have feelings or something comes in, you don't feel so good. And when you don't feel so good, you look in the mirror and you think you look horrible.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are, it happens. You
Mhm.
just go from within
Mhm.
and you smile at yourself because if you think you look good, everybody will.
Yes. Yeah. That is so important. Absolutely.
It is really important.
Yeah. Energy feel you can feel energy when it's like positive, you know? It draws you. It's
Yes.
almost like going down a dark alley. You get a kind of like aware of like your surroundings, to feeling like, okay, this made me dangerous, so I have to be on guard. So those kind of like feelings that you can feel versus like when you meet someone, it's like, wow, like it could just radiate, like you said, from within.
From inside. And of course, drink your water
Oh,
and your
absolutely.
green leafy vegetables. And I say that, but you should see what I ate yesterday.
Was it was it good?
It was very tasty, but it doesn't do me any good and it will show in your face.
Oh no.
But I felt like it. I went to Descanso Gardens with a friend,
Mhm.
and this is really nice. And it's pretty beautiful there. And I saw a group of people coming towards us. And one of them was very light skinned, but I knew he was black. But he was with a lot of white people.
Mhm.
And his spirit came out to me, and I came to him. And I said, I want you to know you're noble, you're blessed and highly favored, and you are the light. And that is a designation given to us who are of African descent and Africans by Baha'u'llah, the glory of God, founder of the Baha'i faith. And he was so happy. And his mother, who very white, went, oh, it was lovely surroundings.
Mhm.
And then he thanked me profusely
Aw.
because I know what it's like to be the only one. He was with 6 or 7 white people, and they might be his relatives, but still.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just wanted to, especially young black men, because they have so much upon them, and young black women. That's how I met you.
Yes, yes, that's definitely how you met me. When you share with us about who we are, and just reminding us that all the time, or the people that you meet, the black men and women that you meet, what is I want to segue to yourself, right?
Okay.
And talking about what is a favorite feature of yourself and why.
I guess I
It
would
doesn't, it doesn't
say,
have to be physical. I mean, of course, I think your spirit to me.
oh, well,
I,
my favorite feature is I always try to find something in beauty in every person I meet. I'm
Mhm.
not always right there, but if I find myself not finding the beauty, I'll look for it or I'll speak to them
Yes.
and I'll give them energy so that I can realize that they're a human being. And we're all snooty to a degree. You might say, oh, why is she so fat? No, that's not the way to look at anybody.
Mhm.
It's to find the beauty in them. I think that another feature I like is I have a great sense of humor about myself.
Yes.
I'll do something so silly or dumb and I will kill myself laughing
Oh
at
my.
me.
Yes. Yes. And what's your favorite? What do you love about being a black woman?
I like it that we don't get any wrinkles.
Facts.
I like it that our body stays intact for ages.
Yes.
Like all these things I see on TV, for creams for your crepey skin. I don't have crepey skin.
You do not at all.
And well, I guess we're all ever evolving. But
Mhm.
I like the fact that, well, we're Mother Earth. That's what we are.
Yeah.
I also like my lips and my teeth.
Yes.
I, I, I take good care of my teeth.
Yes. Me too. Me too.
It's important
It's very
because you'll see a lot of people my age and they haven't taken care of their teeth. And that Also helps you to look old and cranky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Am I right or am I right?
You are right. You're right. Is that going to be your beauty secret that you're sharing with us, or do you have another beauty secret that you can share with us?
Shea butter.
Shea butter. Oh my gosh, yes.
I can share this with you.
Yes.
After you wash your face in the morning, or you could do it later.
Mm-hmm.
Take the shea butter and then do 3 times here,
Yes.
3 times here, 3, 5 here, and then you just pull. It really makes a difference.
Yeah.
I know it looks like I'm not doing anything. 3 times.
Mm-hmm. No, but I remember
3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I have to remember. Now, this is not something I made up. I got it from the internet. It's
Yes,
Korean.
that's what I was. Yeah.
3 times.
Mm-hmm.
3 times. 3 times. But I do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
3 times. 30 seconds.
Yes.
This is the most important one.
Under your chin.
12 times.
Mm-hmm.
Up. I mean, this is not something I made up. This is I got from the internet.
Yeah, I remember reading that with French women. They do that a lot. They massage. They work their muscles in their face to
Right.
yeah, get the blood flowing.
Sort of the Korean. Well, I got it from Korean. There's this other one I really like. Forget her name. She has you do this. And then put the energy to your face. Then she does a lot of these. She really emphasizes doing this for 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. It's probably like back there. It's like more like a stress reliever than anything else.
Well, she says it takes the fascia from your face, whatever that means.
Yeah, yeah.
And then this one, 3. And then what else do? I do this.
Wow.
Look at the difference, though.
I know. So a highlight that I want to shine on is your aid on a resolution passing in September.
Oh yeah.
On the Sundown law. Can you reveal to us how you were able to diminish the law for the city of Glendale, and also what the Sundown law was for our viewers who don't know what that law entails?
Well, the law is very old.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 150 years old, I would like to say, because Glendale was the home of the Ku Klux Klan and the head of the Nazi Party. And that entailed redlining. White people, they bought a house here, they had to state and sign that they would never sell to a black person. So you didn't have a lot of black people in Glendale, if any, and the ones that you had, the black and brown people, were like the maids and gardeners. And so they had this law called the Sundowners Law, which meant black and brown people had to be off the street before sundown.
Wow.
They didn't want to see any people of color on the streets of Glendale after sundown. So I wasn't aware of this law a long time ago, about 35 years ago. I happened to be at a fireside and somebody mentioned that, you couldn't live in Glendale because blah, blah, blah.
When I first moved out here, I had a studio in Glendale, and I had mentioned that to, I think, someone that was like an older gentleman or an older man or woman, I don't remember, but they were definitely older, and they were just like, wow. He was like, you live in Glendale? Like, and the thing that they said to me was, you couldn't even step foot in Glendale after a certain.
No, you couldn't. And I mean,
it didn't resonate with me what they were saying. I was like, you couldn't step foot in Glendale. Like,
no.
Until like now we're having this conversation, and when we had our conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, there were laws that were telling you couldn't.
There's all kinds of laws against any kind of equity toward black and brown people all throughout the United States. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that because of myself and several others, not just me, Tanita Harris, the CEO, who's African American of the YWCA.
Mhm.
A lot of people worked on it. I think I worked on it 35 years ago. In my limited knowledge, I called somebody who I knew was influential in Glendale, and I said, a white person. I said, this is for you to fix. She didn't really want to, but she went to the city, and they said, yes, it is on the books. And if a Black person doesn't like it and they get arrested for being on the streets of Glendale, they can sue us. Goodbye. And she told me like that was the solution. Well, then I got busy with my baby, and I didn't live in Glendale.
Mhm.
And then the spirit put me in Glendale like 18 years ago, and I was walking to Ralph's, and some people yelled out, "You better get off the street, lady. It's after sundown."
When was this?
When ding, ding, ding. Oh yeah.
When was this? When did someone do this?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And I said, oh yeah, that's right. So then I called up the Attorney General of Glendale, the sitting attorney, is it called Attorney General? I think so, of Glendale. And she didn't want anything to do with it. She actually got pissed off with me because can't look through. First, she denied it. And she was also a brown person. But sometimes people don't like to get involved in what they think is their fault. It's not our fault that laws are against us. It's the fault of the dominant culture. So then I called the police. And the sitting chief of police, he said, "Oh, I don't want to get involved in that." And I didn't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tara Peterson and Tanita, it's a group called Black in Glendale. It's a group of mothers who formed it to support their children who were getting beaten up because they were of the color of their skin. And it's a very supportive group.
Mm-hmm.
They celebrate Kwanzaa things. It's very Afrocentric in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all of them had meetings, and any city leaders were involved, like priests, rabbis, whatever. People who believed in justice, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went to the city hall, and it was past September 10, I believe, 2020.
Okay.
And I think because of Black Lives Matter and what was happening, it made certain people see certain things. And there was a march in Glendale that was phenomenal. There were Chinese people had placards saying, "Chinese people for Black Lives Matter, Armenians for Black Lives Matter."
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people got on the bandwagon.
Mm.
So I was concerned if it was going to get passed before November 3rd, 2020, because depending on the administration that was in power, that law could be instituted and used again.
Yeah.
And it was in a vibration way, because the cops knew. Like, I had a lawyer tell me, "You're not even supposed to live in Glendale."
What?
When I was researching what to do, I spoke to this white lawyer, and he was like, flipped me off practically. "You're not even supposed to live in Glendale, so why are you so concerned?" So was the attitude in some cases. But the last 2 years, more Black people have been visiting and coming to live in Glendale than ever before in life.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I get to reach a lot of souls. Anyway, some young Black men who are the most in danger
Mm-hmm.
have told me that since that law was passed, they're not being harassed by the cops anymore. Hello.
Wow.
That made me the happiest. Some of them come up and hug me, even though it's COVID.
I think it's so fascinating that, you went through the steps of like, okay, let me call, what they tell us to do, call the mayor, or do these things, right? But it had to take a community of you know, following up with priests and rabbis to say, hey, we actually need to take it to this level for spiritually to speak with them to be able to kind of move this forward. That's
But
so
I will give all the credit to the CEO of the
yeah,
YWCA
absolutely
and Tanita Harris of Black and Glendale.
great. That's
And
but it's still community. That's what I'm saying.
yes, and because George Floyd died too, see,
Mhm.
and people became more aware. And when you have a law like that on the books, I was so afraid, especially with more Black people moving into Glendale. I didn't want Glendale to be the site of some murder like that.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
That is so great. Thank you so much. Thank you to, you know, these two other individuals that you mentioned as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Was Glendale the only city that?
Oh, no, honey. Burbank, Pasadena, Arcadia, La Cañada, La Crescenta. Okay, Glendale is the only city in California that has resolved this law.
Wow.
There's only 3 cities in the whole of the United States that have resolved the law. 1 in Texas, 1 in the Midwest, all through the states. This is a law. It was buried during the civil rights. People will tell you, oh, we don't have that nasty law. Oh, yes, you do. Pasadena asked me to help them get rid of it and then came back with, well, we found out we don't have it. I said, you will be lied to. You do have it. And I pray to God nothing happens. And I notice a difference in the cops since the law has been resolved. They're much more respectful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because they know.
Yeah, they knew.
They don't want any bad publicity.
Right. Wow, that is, you know, again, I just want to thank you. I want to thank those two individuals that you mentioned about.
Yeah, and there were others too, you know, but yeah. I can't very well call their names right now because I don't remember.
Yeah, everyone that was a part of getting this resolved, you know, but that was one of the highlights of conversations that we had, that I was just like, wow, you know what I mean? That kind of just really took me aback that, you know, even up to 2020, this is a law, you know, that had to be seen and recognized, to saying, okay, this no longer can be where it is. But to know that there are other, you know, states and other, you know, and other parts of United States that still have this is something of a conversation that I think needs to be had for sure.
Well, the initiative has to be taken.
Yes.
And I don't know why others aren't doing it. But
it just starts with one and it just kind of goes from there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they wanted us to prove that it was a law. I said, what do you mean prove it? You know it's there.
Yeah.
You didn't ask the Armenians to prove their genocide. And yet you give them a special holiday and you accept that. And then they started to say, yeah. Yeah, it's true. Of course it's true. Anybody, any older person that owns a home here knows it's true.
Yes.
Any white person, I mean. You could probably insert the video here somewhere.
Yes, and you know what? I'm actually going to leave that in the description box below, so that
that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, ask them to like it too.
Yeah. I will. Well, thank you so much, Ms. McGrath. I really, really appreciate this. Like,
well, thank you for talking to me.
Absolutely. Again, it's a voice that we all need to hear, you know, regardless of where you are, what has happened, you know, within your life. We are so appreciative of just you being you. So we appreciate it.